Hey, what's up, guys? Threat Level Midnight here, and today I got a video kind of addresses some comments I've been getting lately, but it's kind of the difference between what I would call like skill-based shooting and just running drills so you can isolate particular shooting skills, and scenario-based shooting, or what some people might call working on tactics. I think tactics and tactical is a word that's probably overused quite a bit, and I end up catching a lot of flack on my comments because people are saying silly things like, oh, well, I'd like to see you try that with someone else shooting at you, or what if you weren't anticipating it? And it's like, well, you know, I don't know. I don't train on a range where people shoot back at me all the time because I'd probably be dead. And also, if I'm creating a scenario in my own head, how effective is that scenario going to be when I already know the answer to the riddle? So those are kind of things to consider. So when I'm out on a range day, especially if I'm kind of crunched for time, or if I'm just solo or with one or two other people, I'm just going to start kind of from the ground up, where first things first, got to get the gun out of the holster. So what am I going to work first? Is just drawn out of the holster, whether it's concealed or whether it's from like a duty belt. I'm just going to work on breaking the retention and getting a shot on target. And if not, if you can't do that, then what's the point of doing all the other whiz-bang stuff where you're running and just blowing holes in targets from 5 feet, So I'm going to work on my draws and just getting an accurate shot on target. I'll usually shoot at a small circle or a very small target, so I can really kind of focus in on just breaking that first shot. And then from there, I'll move on to some like out of the holster work, where I'm shooting doubles, just taking maybe a bigger target, and I'm just trying to run fast splits on doubles. And I run everything off of a timer when I'm solo, not to get stressed because of the timer, like maybe you would in a match, but just so I can measure some form of progress. It kind of helps me if I can say, hey, my old draw speed, last year I was drawing at like getting a shot on target at 1.35, and now I can do it at 1.1, or this one was under a second or whatever. It's just a way to measure progress. I don't have like a target number that I'm looking for. All right, so my fastest draw was 109, and then my second fastest was right around 110, and you can see that both of them were just out. So I kind of found my threshold where my sweet spot was right around the 120, 125 range for pushing these shots. And anytime I pushed it a little bit faster, closer to a second, I'd start throwing them out of the circle. And I think people get lost in the weeds of trying to do these like standardized drills where I have to get it in under this time. It's like, well, you just need to make progress instead of just rushing through. Maybe you isolate the individual skill that would get you there, which phase one, getting the gun out and on target. Phase two, breaking an accurate first shot. And then phase three, like following up and then transitioning to other targets. And I'm not saying that there's no place for non-isolated drills, and I certainly use scenario-based training quite a bit, but most of my training, like 90% of it, is going to be just isolated drills on the range where I'm just working on handling a gun, and that's what I need. And if I get someone new on my team, usually the first thing we try to do is just get out to the range, see if this person can handle a gun. Like, can this person break the retention on their holster and get a shot on? Can they handle recoil? Can they reload? Can they, just all the little basic things that would make a good shooter. And I think if people get lost in the weeds of like, well, look at my CQB footwork, or look at how I pied this corner, or I panned and scanned, and people get all these little buzzwords because CQB is trending, everywhere, and people get lost on, well, you should be doing this better or this, and it's like, well, you are so focused on that you probably skipped the steps of, to get there, which is being extremely competent with a gun. And if I have someone that's working on my team, I want to make sure that they're extremely competent with a gun before we start talking about making entry on house, like baby steps. And that's a step that's often overlooked. Like, can you just like slow fire at a target at 25 yards and hit the target? Like really basic things. And then another thing that I get a lot is people, saying, oh, well, you didn't, you shot and you didn't leave your gun on target, or you didn't follow it down, and you didn't scan, and you didn't check your invisible team, and after you scanned for your imaginary threats and your imaginary target that fell down. And to me, like, that's just a silly waste of time on the range. Like if I have a finite amount of time, like right, I can get as much ammo as I need. I have guns, I have my equipment, but the most precious thing to me when I'm on the range is my time. So if I only have an hour, so like the videos I'm going to show you, are from just like a quick trip to the range. I had a little bit of time. I just wanted to get some reps in. I'm going to focus on some skill building stuff. I'm not going to waste an extra 30 seconds per draw to pretend follow a target down and pretend look for other threats and pretend check a team that's not there. Like that stuff to me, like you can do that stuff without doing it in every single range drill. But I have people, coming at me sideways saying, "Oh, you would lose a gunfight because you fired one shot and then you went back to the holster and you didn't focus on your target for longer." And it's like, dude, one, you've probably never been in a gunfight, and two, do you really think I'm just going to stand there static and follow this target down and do all these little motions? Like that's not a bad habit as well. Like, I don't think these people have ever understood that like the situations are fluid, and maybe that's not what you need to do every single time. And like I said, to me, that stuff's just a silly waste of time. And if you watch it, it looks a little silly, especially when you're standing there by yourself, doing all these little moves and scans and things, when really you're scanning nothing because there is no other threats there. You're on a paper range, and there is no team behind you because you're by yourself, and a lot of that stuff's just kind of a waste of time. So, and then I have people coming at me about how, shooting at match stages. Well, I'd like to see you shoot like that if someone's shooting back at you. It's like, well, it's a match stage. Like people underestimate the power of shooting matches, and I think that if you've ever shot a match, even if it's whether it's USPSA, 3-gun, like even like Steel Challenge, even like rimfire stuff, like one, it's a lot of fun, but two, like, hey, nothing puts the stress on like a bunch of your friends watching you. And you're being filmed, you're competing for a prize, you're competing between friends, you're competing against a bunch of people you don't know, and you're on the clock. So it adds a lot of good stress, where you can start kind of getting a little bit of stress inoculation there just from the pressure of shooting those matches. And I'm not comparing shooting a match to being shot at or being in a gunfight, but I'm saying that it helps. And if you ask a lot of people who have been in a lot of gunfights that shoot proficiently, that shoot matches, they'll say, yeah, the best prep that I ever got was shooting matches beforehand. And I think a lot of people in the tactical world, or the people that LARP or pretend that they're in the world, or whatever their profession may be, like, oh, well, that's not good tactics, that's not this or that's not that. I think they're missing the point. Is just sailing over their heads, where it's like, hey, that's not the point. The point is it's a skill building exercise, so that at my worst moment, I have done this so many times, or I've done this under stress, I've done this under a time constraint, that I'm so competent with a gun that I can do this, and it's not a big deal at all. And I think that's something that goes over people's heads quite a bit. And also, man, I'll tell you what, like, coming from military and law enforcement, like, most people in the military and most cops are terrible shooters. They're awful.
Okay. Let me see your hands, dude. Oh, shit! Fuck.
Officers undergo significant training on how to provide aid.
And so people have this, like, they misconstrue, like, oh, well, this guy was an infantryman, or this guy was this, or this guy was that. It's like, those people barely shoot. They don't carry around guns all the time. You're not even allowed to carry loaded guns on base, like, and they're not at the range every day, maybe during like pre-deployment workups, but they're not focused on skill building exercises, not a lot anyways. And police especially, like, these guys are shooting like quarterly, and they're pretty bad. And a lot of you know what I'm talking about, and a lot of you are going to be like, whoa, really? Cops are bad shooters? And yeah, most of them are bad shooters, because no one really takes the time to develop those skills on their own, and which is what's required of you if you really want to be better than just baseline, like, I qualled today, like I met the minimum qualification. Like, you need to put the time in on your own, and a lot of people just don't do it, which is sad. But yeah, like I say, I didn't want to make this video to gripe and moan about things, but I think a lot of people are they want the silly range theatrics, and they want you to pretend follow targets to the ground and do all this stuff because they think that that's what shooting is and that's what's going to make you more proficient, and it's absolutely not. Like it's the individual skill development that's going to build you as a shooter as a whole, and then if you're working with a team, it's going to be working with that team, whether you're doing entries, whether you're doing like vehicle assaults, whatever it is that you're working on, that stuff will come and you'll learn to communicate with your team, but the pretend stuff is all, to me, it's a waste of reps that I could be getting. So hope this video finds you well. Like, comment, subscribe, and thanks for watching.